Coming back on for the third piece here, as Brian and I were talking while I was setting up the third segment, he actually made a statement that I found surprising. So he's going to go ahead and unpack that and flesh that out for us here.
Yeah, so I was listening to a message this past Sunday, and I was thinking about, there was two graduates that spoke at Journey, and one of them was talking about, not having a strong family upbringing in church, and she was feeling really insecure. This was her testimony up on the stage on Sunday, and she talked about specifically how she was invited to church and through someone at her school, and how that decision of that person to reach out to her and to bring her to church, like, completely changed her life for the better. And just listening to her speak and listening to our youth pastor glow about how not only is she a great missionary as a student, but just as a human being, like, just how much she's grown, that inspired me just to think about the students at my own school that do that. We had a girl this year who my son is friends with, that he's known from her previous school, but she's just like on fire, and she's a leader. She started a club called Engage. It was a club that was present at the previous school when it was a bigger school, and she already has a good group of 10, a student-led club. All we have to be as teachers is a place for them to meet and encourage them. And so I say all that to say, I know a lot of parents make the choice to homeschool or to send your kids to private school, and both of those decisions have their own merit, and as families feel led to do that, it's really important, and there's good reasoning for all that. But I feel like there's also a place in public schools for strong Christian students that can, as was spoken, I'm going to go back to the sermon from Sunday, like, you can, as Jesus dined with sinners, like, you don't also sin with sinners. Like, that really spoke to me. It spoke to me big time. And I feel like, same that thing applies to school, because I feel like that's what I did not do a good job of as a student. I would, want to fit in, and I would dine and sin with sinners. And I feel like one thing I'm really impressed with my son, my older son, is that, like, he's very much, like, grounded in a way that, like, he at least from my perspective, and I mean, if he does it when I'm not around, I don't know, but just from what I've seen and the words that come out of his mouth, like, I'm just so grateful that he has that approach. Like, I can be around people, but I'm not going to conform to them. I'm grounded in my faith and what I believe in, the way that I'm taught to act, by my Savior, and I'm not going to do that. And I feel like there's a place in public school for students that want to reach out to others and to be that example, and to set up a safe space for others that to plant that seed in them. So that's where I'm at with that. I mean, that's as I've continued my years in public education, those things, when God brings that to light, it just kind of solidifies, like, where I'm supposed to be. Thought about doing other things and getting out of education for a lot of reasons, but I always circle back to those moments when I see those things happening. So
yeah, that, I mean, and you definitely make a good point. Everything from that student, I served with her for the middle school, and man, like, she's going off to college this year, and just like, she's a major encourager. She's 17 or so, and for her, like, she can encourage someone that is twice, if not 3 times her age sometimes, just in such a good way. And she comes from the public school system, and, like, facing, like, some of the darkest things that system has to face, as far as the horrendousness that I know that girl groups can be. Like, for guys, we have to face fights, and, like, the name calling part, everybody can handle that as far as a guy goes, but the fights are the things we worry about. But for the girls, man, they will make life absolute, just the lake of fire for a girl that's not in, but nevertheless, she is a radiant spirit that, like, I mean, I come to her a lot and I'm like, yo, you are discipling this person so good. Like,
right.
Dude, like, tell me how are you making the time for it? That's definitely a good point there. Like, and she even says that her sufferings there allow her to be able to connect with some of the students now. Mm-hmm. And that wouldn't be something that she had, I'm sure she would have had other skills, but if she were kind of more protected in a better environment where she never learned those experiences. So that certainly is a point to definitely consider, especially, and I think that then it comes down to like, making sure that you really have like the good church body around. Because
exactly. If you're going in without that, and if you don't have those connections outside of school, then I feel like you're more likely to go the other route. Like, okay, I'm gonna be a part of this, and if I start like getting involved, let's say, I get involved in sports, which isn't a bad thing in itself, but that takes away from your life group time, youth group time, because those are the things that will happen. I was listening to statistics the other day just about how many even like church going youth, like, was it 60% or more, as they get more involved in later high school years or into college, it's like they don't come back to the faith. It's like, okay, they have this plan of, okay, I'm going to get my high school diploma, make sure I have all my ducks in a row to get into the college I want to go to, and then I want to major in this, I want to do that, I need to volunteer here, I need to have this internship, I need to do that, and then before you know it, you've squeezed out everything church related, and everything's about what you want to do as a career and what kind of money you're going to make, and then maybe your plan for a family at that point or whatnot. But I feel like you got to have that. If you're going to stick with that, you got to have your church family, your groundedness, your foundation. So.
Do you think for the family that has some hesitance, because there are families that have like church hurt, and or maybe that the churches that they have around are not like good places to foster a healthy relationship with God or community. So like, what do you think for them? Like, maybe lean a little bit more to homeschooling until you find like a good church body?
Possibly, but definitely plugging in to a church that you completely see eye to eye with is challenging you to move forward in your relationship, and challenging you to stay in community. I mean, those are the things that are huge. That are, it's biblically based, and what you believe and what you follow, and it's challenging you. And if, like you said, if you don't have that, then maybe that public school option's not good in that moment. If you feel like they're not going to get that outside of their school environment, you know what I mean? So.
When I look at it, it's kind of crazy. Like, it really does all come back to that, and everything circulates to that, whether it's the way that we look at what do we want to do for kids for school, whether it's like the partner that we would choose to take on. How for you did you navigate, because you said you were kind of like off your game a bit in terms of like in school being involved, and then so how did you navigate even just like prioritizing like what you needed to do as a young man coming into the world with all of these checklists of things you had to do?
All right, so I will say, like, when I first got into the program that I got into for teaching, I was definitely in that like frame of like juggling. Okay, I could retake this medical school test that I didn't do so well on. My grades are still pretty good. I could still go that route, but I still felt like that door was closing in a lot of ways. And the fact that I'd really enjoyed the tutoring that I was doing, and the opportunity I had for teaching. So I felt like just kind of being obedient in that, like, okay, this is working. And this program I got into was, at that moment, it was the selectivity of it was really high. a lot of people were applying for this program post 9/11, and it was really like, because I started that program in 2002. It was literally one of the first application cycles after, and the flood of applicants was real high. So I kind of saw that as a sign, like, okay, I got into this program. The interview, I had to go to Atlanta to get into it, and it was one of those interviews that I didn't feel like I was the strongest interviewer, but for whatever reason on that day, like the words were just coming out of my mouth and I didn't even know where they came from. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was weird, even in the group discussion, because I was one that usually would hesitate to speak in like a group of like 10. I was shy, but I had a lot to say. I had read the articles and I was talking, and everything was like flowing well. And so I kind of saw that as like, okay, God, this is where you want me to be. And at that moment, I wasn't super plugged in. I was still praying, and I was toward the end of my like college years. I just graduated, and I had like about 6 months from the time I graduated to when I left for Houston. So I was in that phase of, okay, I got into this, I might do this. I was working part-time at a lab, like, okay, I don't want to do this research thing because that's what I'm doing in this other job. So I was kind of navigating through that, but I felt like that interview went awesome. We got into this program, and then that next step was just to pack my stuff up and move to Houston. It was the weirdest thing in the world. I would have never thought that that's what I was going to do.
And in this time, you had nothing in the way of like, oh, I'm worried about these friends or maintaining these friendships, or, oh man, there's this girl at school that I'm thinking about.
No, I didn't have any like serious relationship at that moment. I had a longer term like dating relationship like 2 years before that. It was actually like long distance. Like it was someone I dated from Apopka that she was going to go to Florida State. Didn't work out for her. And so we maintained a long distance relationship for about a year, and then she closed that door. I was not happy about that. But it was just a lot of things were happening in that moment, and that was like 2 years before that. And from that moment forward, I really was just like not that interested in pursuing anybody romantically. It was just, so I think that
in a lot of ways, probably a blessing in there.
It
like that
out.
Just right timing of that closing out.
I dated my roommate in college at the time. He was about to get married, and he had dated his girlfriend for like 6 or 7 years, and she kept trying to set me up, and like, I would go on a date, and I was like, yeah, this was fun, but didn't really. So
you even had some opportunities, and you were just like, nope, I'm good off that. I just had a thing. I'm okay now. Like I'm just gonna focus on my thing.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, so you just asked me these questions. So, but yeah, it really wasn't. I can't even think of anyone I was like really interested in. It was just kind of like, well, this was fun, we go grab some dinner, but it was nothing beyond that. And my classes were pretty hard at that moment. Like I was finishing up my degree, and I was into the upper level biology, biochemistry classes, and spending a lot of time just kind of studying and doing a lot. I was doing a lot of reading at that time. I was reading some stuff. I love to read different books, different kinds. And so I was reading
more things to kind of fact absorb, like you were saying.
I was processing and still thinking about, if I was going to go to medical school or whatnot, like, what was that going to look like, and trying to keep my grades up for that, studying for the MCAT. At that point, I was still planning on the medical.
So you just had your total focus game on.
On that.
So you're going, you're focusing hardcore. Yeah. You're like, that was fun. No thanks. Da 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 da. I got to work on this thing. So then that's your focus, and then. Are you full pedal to the metal on that? Like you're not letting any outside distractions into that car at that time?
Not in the moment, no. But the weird thing is, I was full pedal on things that I didn't end up doing. The classes were good because I needed that knowledge for whenever I taught those things. But I had it in my mind that I was going to do this, and then those doors were kind of slowly closing, but I was still pushing, and then eventually this opportunity came up to teach, and that's when I was like, I told you a little while ago, that interview went really well, and felt like that's what I was supposed to do. It was a weird kind of clarity that even to this day, I don't remember even like.
Quick question.
second guessing it.
Before that opportunity and that great interview happened, was there any part of you that, like, as the doors were closing, that you were like, oh man, why I'm like, these things are closing, like maybe I should like take up my friends on an offer to go to this party or to go on a date with this girl? Like, did it allow the space for something else to creep in ever kind of come in, or were
I don't remember, man. That was a long time ago, but I don't remember anything. Like, I think at that moment I was like, I'm wrapping up my senior year and I need to have something in mind. I was like, okay.
I was just curious on that. Yeah,
I don't want to like be stuck and not have something to do at the moment. I mean, if it doesn't happen with medical school or it doesn't happen with this other opportunity, because at that moment I was already starting to apply for this teaching thing, because there was like an initial phone interview and then, submit this essay, and then had to go to Atlanta for the other interview. But I was already in that process. So I was like, okay, I got to go full speed ahead, and I was finishing up to graduate too. But I don't. It was weird. Like, I don't remember a ton of distractions. I don't think I had I had my roommate who we were really close. I had a few other good friends. One had already graduated earlier and he had left to go to work. He moved back to Orlando. So I didn't have like a ginormous like social circle at that moment. So I guess maybe that was part of it too. I wasn't like connected at that moment. I wasn't like super connected with any organization like right then. I was volunteering, doing some different things, but I wasn't like.
Which sounds smart too, because it also allowed you not to feel like you were being pulled in all these directions between friendship, relationships, girls, like organization stuff. You could just really focus on the thing, and then once the amazing event happened with the opportunity, you were able to, okay, I got this thing, here we go, well, we'll try this thing out here. Which I was talking to my cousin recently, and similar, like to you, different but similar. You wanted to go into like the science field, and for him, he wanted to go into baseball, and he wanted to play professionally, but injuries left and right, things like that. And so he's about to start up his first ever time of doing substitute teaching, because he always had like a like of that and helping out with teaching. So just as you describe it, I'm like, I kind of see some, and similar to you, he's at a place where he's like, I'm not really looking at relationships right now. So I'm like, I see, seeing some parallels in there.
I've met some people that have gone that route, but like, substitute teaching is definitely a way to figure out if you like it or not, because I always give a lot of kudos to substitute teachers, because that's tough, because you're coming into a place where you don't have a relationship with any of the students in the room, and some are appreciative of you, others are looking for something to get away with in that moment, and like, so that I've always, anytime I've ever met a substitute teacher who that's like how they're going to get into teaching, I'm always like, man, I applaud you, that's awesome, because that's, in my opinion, a little bit more challenging than some of the stuff we do.
That lack of rapport can be a monster. So you get in to do the teaching opportunity, and you do that, and you're focused on that for a while before you start to kind of reestablish your spiritual roots again and get into that.
So this is the cool thing, is as soon as that opportunity happened, I left in June, because we trained in the summer, and then I started my teaching career that fall, and now August. Well, that June is when I met my friend, the one I was telling you about earlier, who's a relatively new Christian, the one with the small Bible, the sword, he called it, like, it's my sword. And so, but that, we connected, like the first day, we were just like, talking about basketball and the player, and then it was like, and then we started hanging out, and then he ended up being my roommate for 2 years, and he was in my wedding too. But it was cool, and immediately, like, he's like, man, let's find a church or whatnot. So he was like that person that was just like, on a Sunday morning, I'm just exhausted. He'd like knock on the door, like, "Come on, man, let's go." We played.
Everybody needs
played
a
lot of
like
basketball
that.
Together. Like, he was just all around. We were just good. We were watched movie quotes were our thing. Like he always had quotes from so many random movies, and I would quote something else, and it was just like one of those friends that you feel like you knew your whole life, so you connect with. So that was really cool, and I would say he was a pretty big part of me trying out to find a place to connect, and then once we found a place, just like staying connected. And then of course, as I talked about earlier, that led to me finding my beautiful wife. So God puts all that stuff into place. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that these are just as as we're talking about it, like some of the notes I've taken are like set focus to do what you are going to do, even when it means like turning down opportunities and saying no to things. Just like be dead focused on it, and then make a friend who is physically active and excited to get plugged in.
There you go. Yeah. Just be willing. Yeah. Just He was one, and then we had a few others from our same group, but he was the first one. Yeah, it was definitely a group of us that liked to hang out, and it was good.
Well,
I feel like you get older and you start having kids. It's harder to find that.
Yes.
So like when you're younger, like definitely find that community that will encourage you and lift you up. Because when you're married, of course your spouse is your most important community. Outside your relationship with Jesus, but and then of course when you have kids, and of course that's your community, man. And then finding other families that your family can connect with through church and through serving. I mean, that's important too.
And I think why I really love the steps of how things develop for you is because it really follows like the framework of the way that I've been throughout the episodes. Just encouraging, trying to beat over the head of the audience. Like, listen, before you do everything, like have your purpose, have your thing that you're focused on, like make sure you're leaning into it. If you're not spiritual, figure out what the heck that your universe wants you to do or whatever. Right. But if you're a follower of Jesus, like figure out how you're leaning into your calling and your talents that God gave you, and just go all into that. Like block off every possible distraction, say no to girls, like everything, and just go full all in. Once you get to a place where you've done good, you've like done well for yourself to get yourself making a decent little paycheck, and you've got your bills covered, and now you're on the track to like either elevating yourself in your career to make more money, or you're doing a job that is so far leaning into your calling that like you're just doing that and getting your raises as you go, but at the very least have your workspace figured out solidly, and then develop your community of guys that you can have around you, and like start to develop a life that is fun and that you're handling like all your work stuff, and where you've got your guys that are like positive forces that you guys are growing and building together. And then once you've already got a framework established for yourself, now you're gonna have the space that if a pretty lady has an interest, or you notice, now you have a space to invite her into. Even if you're sharing rooms with somebody, you just have a space of a life to be able to offer, where if they're gonna date you, it's I got these things going on, I'm doing this little side thing, I'm meeting up with the buddies here, let's go on a date in this space in between right here. So that way you're not just this guy that's like, tell me if this was you or not, were you ever at any point like hyper focused on your wife?
What do you like?
Like she was taking exorbitant amounts of space and time in your life.
I think what's cool about Cindy, because I definitely have had a relationship where I don't know if I should use the word high or low maintenance. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's the right phrase. I don't know.
I think it's accurate.
Yeah, because like that's what kind of drew me to Cindy, is like she, all the things you're saying, like she already had all that established. And it was interesting because like I don't think I was like looking for her, or she was looking for me in particular. It just kind of like happened. We were just like, I don't know if I was attracted to her first or whatnot, but because I felt like I was, because I was a little more shy. But I was definitely like really, really interested in the beginning, and just hoping it would work out, you know. But before I like saw her, met her, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna come to this class and hopefully find a wife or whatnot. That's not. I was like, I'm gonna, you know, get through this teaching year and hopefully get better at it and continue to have fun with the friends that I made, you know. And then that kind of happened. You know, we started seeing each other, but yeah, I mean, but I don't remember where it was like I was like consumed by the relationship. I guess
I love that because, and then this question: how did you pull the trigger?
Big date. And, there's other funny stories along the way, but that was the first, like, and I was not a forward person, and so that was a big deal for me to like ask that, but I just kind of like made it real smooth and try to like.
Did you like have to practice it? Were you like in the mirror like, hey, remember. Do you want to get some
like Chinese food? I don't remember if I had to practice it. Maybe my friend, my old roommate would remember that, but I don't know.
Did anybody have to like pep you up too, or was it literally just like a spur of the moment thing?
I think it was spur of the moment.
Nice.
Like, I don't remember it like someone had to like, come on, don't be scared. You know, I don't remember any of that. There's a few moments in my life where I remember that like if it's the right time and the right thing to do, it's like it does feel very organic and smooth. So I think you'll know it when that happens.
I just love it, man, because like so. I've seen it so many times, especially over the past year, where it's just like that thing of exactly kind of this framework of guy just is doing his thing, focused all in on what he needs to be doing for himself, like spiritually and work wise, and building up his group of friend guys, no distractions. And then a sweet something kind of is in the vicinity now, just organically, because you're a person that's doing your thing, and you have like places where you're going that are giving you opportunity naturally, but also like you're not obsessing about it. Like if you had said like, oh yeah, man, I was all about her, I would have been shocked at that point. Yeah. Because so far the formula doesn't show that, oh, get hyper consumed with the girl, or like even to, if we go not extreme, like have this girl and be like, you know, texting her and trying to figure out this and that, and then talking to her friend trying to figure out if she likes it, you know, just like you said, that was not the way that it went. It was a very like, oh, we're here, we both like, we have the opportunity, we're both of similar ilks in a lot of way, and like because there's so much framework I have, because she has so much framework in herself. And that's a big piece of advice I would give for guys too, is like if you're looking at like how to prioritize work and friends and your purpose and dating, like you need to have like the girl you're looking at needs to be someone that has a framework as far as community established, like a belief system they would look at. They need to have, like, they don't have to be the best at the thing they're doing, but they should have something that they have a passion and a love about that makes them excited for life. Like if they're just like coasting through life, like, yeah, I'm not really sure what I want to do. You know, it's not like you're looking at, you know, your potential partner and you're saying, oh man, she needs to make like $70K a month. Right. But it's like, wow. But like, you know, as a guy looking at a lady, you know, at least have it to where she is excited about something and like she has a passion. That's the biggest thing that's important. Yeah. And then just when opportunity presents, just be man enough to lay that first rock out and see if she'll pick it up and if she wants to skip rocks with you, and if so, then, you know, let God do his thing.
Yep. I like that analogy. I like to skip rocks.
Man, that's cool. That's cool. So I like hearing how it went. I just wanted to you know, drive that point in, and we are right at that time. So let's go ahead and get into the wrap up segment.
Cool.
So Brian, I kind of just covered like my list of things I wanted to reiterate to the audience. For you, what are 3 key takeaways you would like for the audience to take from this conversation?
I would say be willing to change the path of your life, even in situations where you think it's going to go a certain way. Be obedient, be willing for other doors to open up. I would say that's a big takeaway. And then when like we're talking about the relationships that you build, like setting that foundation and then knowing that if it's the right moment for something to happen, it's gonna feel more natural. And that's really like having this conversation today helps kind of solidify that. And those moments in my life when when I met Cindy, when I decided to dive into teaching, like those moments, like reflecting on that, it was just like really smooth. In situations that I wasn't naturally like good at something, like all of a sudden like things were really smooth. So just know that when those situations happen, like it's gonna feel a little bit more organic. And then number 3, man, there's a lot. I mean, as a parent and as a father, I'm both a parent of a middle schooler, or father of a middle schooler, and I teach a lot of middle schoolers. Just I think just we've had a lot of conversations about how confusing that time of life can be, and just being willing to listen and be a relationship builder when it comes to helping people of that age group, whether it's middle school or high school students, to help them navigate their problems. Just be there for them, be a listener, be willing to connect in a way that suits them, because not every person is going to get connected to the same way, because it's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. So I think as you, whether you're a teacher or a parent, like know that, just between our 2 boys, like how we connect with them, it can be very different. They're both our boys, but very different in how we approach, and just be willing to make that approach differently and put in the time and effort it takes to build that relationship. That was a really long wrap up.
No, you're totally, that's great.
Those are the 3 things I could think of the most were those 3.
Awesome. No, I think that's really good. Thank you so much, Brian, for all of this wisdom you've been able to bring and your experiences and everything in there,
Right. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, man.
Always, man. It's awesome.
So at this time, we're going to go ahead and get into the last segment, you guys, where we're going to ask Brian. Brian, what is something that you want to either do like a confession about that we can pray for you about, or even just something that myself and the audience can pray over for you to encourage you about?
Yeah, I think like with we're thinking about career. Lately, it's been harder because, like, financially, we've had a lot of things come up in our lives between medical expenses and things like that. So I think my struggle is, okay, do I stick with what I'm called to do, or do I find something that hopefully will maybe bring in more family income, but I may be not as happy at? Like, you know what I mean? There's things that I could do that I might not be able to make a difference in other people's lives. So I think where I struggle with is like, okay, the money piece. I think even though I feel like we do a good job of managing things, it's like that human element of, I want to be able to, have my kids have the same vacation as some of their classmates kind of thing. Like, I don't, I get sad about that, but whenever I talk to them about it, I don't think it bothers them. You know what I mean? So I guess helping me realize that, maybe sometimes confirmation that, okay, it's okay to not make as much money as your friends, if you're doing what you should be doing. You don't have to have all the new stuff and all that. So I think that's my thing. Like I still sometimes fall into that insecurity. Okay, there's not a lot of male teachers out, at least at my school, anymore. So I feel like, sometimes it's not seen as a career or something that really builds your families as far as like financially that it could, the other careers can. So I think I just praying for that. And sometimes I look to see if like is Cindy disappointed sometimes that it's we're not making what we could make if either of us were doing something different. So I don't know if that makes any sense. Like that can be a struggle.
Absolutely.
Trying to figure all that out. Like, could I go this route and do this other position if I'm not interacting with kids and I may be miserable at it, but it would make us more money, kind of thing. So balancing that, like finance versus like, okay, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Totally understandable. I think that's something a lot of people will be able to relate to in there. So yeah, man, absolutely. So
all right,
let's go ahead and get this going. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this time here on this Monday, this Memorial Day, where we could just have Brian come over and that we're able to just have some time where we can catch up and get to know a little bit more about each other, get to know the way that he came up, the way that he progressed, and just to hear about his experiences as a father, as a husband, as a teacher, as a student, and as a follower and a disciple. And we're just so thankful, Lord, that he was someone that you've clearly been with his entire life and that you've shown favor to, even at the times where he wasn't certain about what exactly was going on. And we're also just so proud and glad that he was someone that was willing to just be so obedient to you and just following the breadcrumbs that you were allowing, to the point where he's able to do something now that he sees and knows is making an impact on the kids that he's around. And we thank you just for his ability to be such a great relationship builder as he goes and as he pours into those that he teaches, and as he just figures out new ways to adapt to all the different scenarios that have been developing throughout the years. Lord, we're just glad for his enduring heart and the way that you've allowed him to just be a steward of these opportunities and these callings that you've had for him. And we just want to pray, Lord, that as Brian considers all these things as far as financial output that he would be able to do for his family, and this questioning and this thought of